The lights did not fade slowly. They died all at once. For half a heartbeat, Sunspire Academy stood in perfect silence, hanging between breath and panic. Then the emergency glow snapped on, painting the endless hallways in deep red light. Somewhere, far below, metal screamed. The spire shook, just enough to remind everyone how high they truly were. Brock Hansen felt the vibration in his bones. He stood near the upper levels, ribs still sore from his last medical visit, hand resting against a railing as students around him froze in confusion. Wind howled as the atmospheric shield flickered, the sound clawing through the structure like something alive. Sunspire was not supposed to shake. Sunspire was ancient, perfect, untouchable. That was what everyone believed. Brock exhaled slowly through clenched teeth. His body knew disaster before his mind accepted it. Years of human instinct whispered the same warning it always did. Something was wrong. Around him, alien students looked upward, downward, everywhere at once. Long ears flattened. Crests flared. Tails went rigid. Many of them had never experienced a real emergency before. Sunspire handled problems quietly. Safely. This was not quiet. This was not safe. Moments earlier, Brock had been walking with the dean through one of the upper corridors, listening politely to a history lesson about the 100 spires and the great city that wrapped the planet. Brock remembered thinking that it all felt too clean, too controlled. Now, the walls hummed unevenly. Lights flickered, dust fell from seams that had not been disturbed in centuries. The dean had gone pale. This should not be possible, he said, more to himself than to Brock. Then the voice came. It poured from every speaker, every drone, every personal device in the spire. It was rough, heavy, filled with open hatred. Cowards of Sunspire, the voice growled. Hear me. Brock's stomach tightened. I am Warlord, Kix of the Weltree Fleet. I have shattered your shields. I have silenced your defenses. Your academy lives only because I allow it. Distant explosions thudded through the structure. Not close enough to destroy the spire. Close enough to prove a point. Students cried out. Some dropped to their knees. Others backed away as if the walls themselves had turned hostile. Brock didn't move. Give me the human, Kix continued. Give me Brock Hansen. Refuse, and I will peel this spire apart from the bottom up. Silence followed. A deep, terrible silence. Every head turned slowly. All eyes locked onto Brock. He felt it instantly. Hundreds of gazes, sharp with fear, confusion, calculation. He had felt crowds before. Fans, cameras, fame. This was different. This was judgment. Brock swallowed, ribs aching as he shifted his weight. His name echoed in his head. Not Hansen's Comet. Not Star Athlete. Not Deathworlder, just Brock. That's not possible, someone whispered nearby. Why, a human? Humans are resilient, another voice replied shakily. They survive things we don't. That doesn't mean it means something, Flick said quietly. Brock turned. Flick stood a few steps back, ears low, eyes focused not on Brock's fame or injuries, but on his face. Real concern sat there. Honest, unfiltered. You should hide, Flick said. They will protect you. Brock almost laughed. Protect. His body, remembered hospital beds, fractured ribs. Gravity heavier than most species could stand. Humans didn't get protected. Humans endured. Before he could respond, security drones streaked past, red lights flashing. The dean spoke rapidly into a comm device. his voice shaking. Despite his effort to sound calm, all students are to shelter immediately. This is not a drill. The spire shook again. Stronger this time. Brock felt the floor flex. Kix's voice returned, sharper now, impatient. You have 5 minutes. Brock closed his eyes. 5 minutes. He remembered doctors calling him impossible. Medics calling humans immortal, death alters. He remembered Fleek's laugh, the sandwich they shared, the quiet space at the top of the spire where everything felt normal, for once. He opened his eyes. Running would save him. Staying might save everyone else. Brock straightened slowly. Pain flaring through his chest. Pain flaring through his chest. He ignored it. Pain had never stopped humans before. I'm not hiding, he said quietly. Flick's ears snapped up. Brock, if he wants me, Brock continued, voice steady now, then I need to know why. The spire groaned again, as if listening. Somewhere, far below, something broke. And Brock Hansen, the human no one feared enough, took his first step toward the center of the storm. Sunspire had always sounded alive. Soft hums in the walls. Gentle air currents. Quiet systems working so smoothly that no one ever noticed them. Now, the spire screamed. Metal groaned somewhere deep below. Emergency lights flickered like a dying heartbeat. A distant explosion rolled through the structure, followed by a wave of vibration that sent students stumbling. Brock felt it through the soles of his boots. This was not a single strike. This was a siege. Security drones rushed past in tight formations, their smooth movements broken by sudden course corrections, as systems struggled to keep up. Automated defense turrets unfolded from the walls and, then, froze. Several, sparked. One dropped lifelessly to the floor. Brock frowned. That shouldn't happen. Flick muttered beside him. Those systems are isolated. Brock didn't answer. He was already moving, scanning the corridor, listening. Humans were good at that. At noticing what didn't fit, smoke drifted in from a lower junction. It smelled wrong. Burnt metal mixed with something chemical. Students were crying now. Some clutched each other. Others ran without direction. Instincts screaming louder than reason. An alien security officer shouted orders, his voice cracking as his wrist display flickered and went dark. Our internal network is compromised. He yelled. Fall back! 2, the lights went out again. This time, they stayed out. Emergency power returned weaker than before, leaving shadows long and sharp. The air felt thinner. Brock sucked in a breath and hissed quietly as pain flared in his ribs. He ignored it. Pain could wait. Fear couldn't. Shelter routes are failing, the dean said into his calm, panic leaking into his tone. Multiple lower levels report hull stress. Brock turned toward him. Which levels? The dean stared. Why? Brock hesitated for only a second. Because whoever is attacking isn't just bombing us. They're pushing stress points. Got the dean's attention.
What?
Brock pointed at the floor. Sunspire wasn't built all at once. Older sections carry load differently. If I wanted to scare people without collapsing the whole structure, I'd hit areas that shake but don't break. Silence. Then another explosion. This one closer. Brock braced, instinctively, grabbing a railing and pulling 2 lighter aliens back to their feet. They stared at him. It just hasn't been tested like this before. Kix's voice boomed again, echoing through the chaos. Your time is almost gone, the warlord snarled. I grow tired of patience. The floor trembled as something massive slammed into the lower spire. Somewhere, glass shattered. A scream echoed up the shaft. Brock's jaw tightened. He turned to Fleek. Where's the nearest manual access stair? Fleek blinked. Manual? Why would you where? Brock repeated. Fleek? Swallowed and pointed. Maintenance core. But it's restricted. Perfect, Brock said. The dean stared at him. You can't be serious. Brock met his gaze. You said Sunspire protects its students. Let me help it do that. Every instinct screamed against trusting a wounded human student over automated systems and trained guards. Then, another explosion rocked the spire. Go, the dean said hoarsely. Brock moved. Down the stairwell, the air grew hotter. Emergency seals had closed too late. Brock covered his mouth with his sleeve and kept moving. Alien guards struggled ahead. Slowed by gravity, coughing, disoriented by the shaking structure. Brock passed them. He shouldn't have been faster, but he was. At a junction, he stopped and slammed his palm against an old control panel. The display flickered weakly. Manual override. Still working. Come on, Brock muttered, fingers moving fast. Don't fail me now. The lights brightened slightly. Ventilation surged. Behind him, an alien medic stared in disbelief. You? Fixed it. Brock didn't look back. Temporary. A deep, mechanical thud echoed through the spire. This one felt deliberate, targeted. Brock felt it in his teeth. They're mapping us, he said quietly. From above, Kix's voice returned, colder now. Human, the warlord said. I know you hear me. Brock froze. Your academy bleeds because of you, Kix continued. You endure pain. You survive collapse. That is why I want you. Brock's hands curled into fists. Around him, aliens listened in silence. You are strong, Kix said. Stronger than them. Surrender, and this ends. The corridor shook again. Dust fell like snow. Brock looked at the terrified students. Injured guards. Fleek, watching him with wide eyes. Strength. Humans had a different word for it. Responsibility. Brock took a breath, ignoring the pain screaming through his chest. No, he whispered. And deep inside Sunspire, something ancient and forgotten cricked awake as the human who refused to run prepared to do what the spire itself could not. Sunspire was failing in layers. The deeper Brock went, the worse it became. Floors warped slightly under stress. Old seams groaned as if the spire itself was tired of holding together. Emergency lights flickered in uneven rhythms, never fully dark, never truly bright. Brock moved anyway. He descended the maintenance stair 2 steps at a time, ignoring the sharp protest from his ribs. Fleek followed as fast as his lighter frame allowed, breathing hard. This area is sealed, Fleek. No students are allowed here. That's why it still works. Brock replied. They reached a narrow service corridor, packed with pipes, cables, and thick metal braces. This was not the beautiful Sunspire students admired. This was its spine. Brock stopped at a wall panel. Alien engineers had stopped using it generations ago. Human hands brushed the surface. Pressure regulators. Brock muttered. Independent from the main grid. Fleek stared. How do you... No, this. Brock didn't look up. He pulled the panel open. Hot air rushed out. A warning alarm tried to sound and failed halfway, dying into silence. Brock reached inside and twisted a manual valve with all his strength. The spire responded. The vibration softened, not gone, but less violent. Somewhere above, students stopped screaming. Fleek's ears slowly lifted. Sweat dripped down his face. This place is bleeding, but it's not dead. Kix's voice cut through the air again, sharper than before. You are interfering, human. The sound echoed. Directly from the corridor walls now. He was closer. Or connected. Brock exhaled slowly. Yeah, that's what I do. The corridor shook violently. Something detonated nearby. Flick stumbled and would have fallen if Brock hadn't grabbed him by the collar and hauled him upright. You should leave, Brock said. Flick shook his head hard. Brock dropped low, instinct taking over. On Earth, fires did not ask permission. Brock checked one quickly. You're hurt. So is everyone else, Brock said. Keep moving. A broken support beam swung slowly, threatening to tear free. Flick froze. There's no way across. Brock studied the distance. Too far to jump safely for most species. For humans, it would hurt. He took a breath. Wait here. Through his boots. The beam lurched. Brock slipped. For one sickening second, he hung over open flame. His grip held. Muscles screamed. His vision blurred. He pulled himself forward anyway. On the far side, Brock slammed into the floor and lay still, gasping. Flick's panicked voice echoed faintly behind him. I'm alive. A narrow bridge extended across the shaft. Flick crossed slowly, shaking. When he reached Brock, his voice was quiet. On my world, that would kill us. Brock gave a humorless smile. On mine, it just means tomorrow will suck. Kix's voice returned, closer now. Almost curious. You endure damage that would shatter others, the warlord said. Your body adapts. Your mind accepts pain. You called that strength? Yes. Brock shook his head. It's survival. Alarm screamed for the first time, raw and desperate. Flick's eyes widened. Structural failure warnings. Lower spire sections are collapsing. Art sank. This wasn't intimidation anymore. This was escalation. They're not bluffing. Flick whispered. Brock nodded grimly. Somewhere deep inside, pain screaming through every nerve. Then we stop this before it reaches the core. Brock realized the warlord wasn't testing Sunspire anymore. He was testing humanity. The Sunspire shook again. Not gently. Not like before. This time, the vibration came from deep inside the spire itself. Structural alarms screamed through the halls. Emergency lights flashed red and gold. Brock felt it through the floor. Lord Kix had started destroying the lower support levels. If he collapses the base, Flick said in panic, the entire spire will fall. Brock pushed himself upright, ignoring the sharp pain in his ribs. Then we stop him before that happens. Flick stared at him. You can barely stand. Brock forced a breath. I don't need to run. I just need to be where he is. They moved through the maintenance corridors, the old paths most students never knew existed. Dust filled the air. The walls vibrated with distant explosions. All around them, the academy was evacuating. Students ran. Guards formed defensive lines. Drones screamed warnings in multiple languages. And below them, Lord Kix waited. They reached the central stabilizer chamber. It was massive. Circular. Old. This part of the spire had been built before modern shields, before elegant alien engineering. Thick human-made supports crossed the chamber like bones. Lord Kix stood at the center, massive and armored, surrounded by glowing control pylons. He turned slowly as Brock entered. So, Kix said, voice echoing, the human arrives. Brock stepped forward. Leave, Brock said. Now. Kix laughed, a deep, cruel sound. You are injured? Kix said. Outnumbered? Unarmed? Brock didn't stop. And yet, Kix continued, you keep standing. Kix raised his weapon and fired. The blast slammed into Brock's chest and threw him backward. Flick screamed. Brock hit the wall hard, pain exploding through his body. His vision went white. But he didn't pass out. He pushed himself back up, shaking, blood running from his mouth. Kix's eyes narrowed. You should be unconscious. Brock wiped his mouth with a shaking hand. Yeah, Brock said. People keep saying that. Kix fired again. Brock rolled aside, the blast missing him by inches and tearing into a support column. The chamber groaned. Fleek yelled, Brock! The stabilizers! I know! Brock shouted back. Brock ran limping, uneven but fast enough. He slammed his hand onto an exposed control panel near the core support. Ancient code lit up. Manual override. The system screamed warnings. Kix realized too late. No. The warlord roared. You will tear it apart. Brock gritted his teeth and forced the lever down. Power surged. The chamber filled with blinding light. The stabilizers locked. The spire screamed but held. The backlash slammed into Brock. He collapsed. Hard. Flick rushed to him, dropping to his knees. Brock, stay with me. Kix staggered, armor sparking. You saved it? Kix said in disbelief. Brock coughed, blood staining the floor. Didn't save it alone, Brock said weakly. People built this. Long before me. Security doors burst open. Sunspire guards flooded in, weapons raised. Turrets activated. Dean Oat appeared at the entrance, calm and furious. It's over, the Dean said. Kix looked around slowly. Surrounded. The spire stable. The humans still breathing. Kix lowered his weapon, for a death welder. Kix said quietly, you fight like a guardian. Brock closed his eyes. Medics rushed in, lifting him onto a stretcher. As they carried him away, Brock heard Flick's voice shaking. You scared everyone? Brock smiled faintly. Good, he whispered. That means they'll think twice next time. As the chamber doors closed, the spire stood tall, cracked, scarred, but unbroken. And so was the human who saved it. The Sunspire was quiet. Too quiet. Smoke drifted through broken corridors. Emergency lights painted everything red. The battle was over, but the tension was not. Broccoli on a medical stretcher in a side corridor. His chest rose slowly. Each breath hurt. Flick walked beside him, refusing to look away. Guards moved carefully now, not rushing, not shouting. Okay, they had learned something tonight. Humans did not fight like others. Dean Oat walked ahead, speaking with security leaders. His voice was calm, controlled, but his posture was different than before. More cautious. They reached the medical wing. As Brock was moved onto a bed, Dr. Soffenhut appeared again, scanning him with practiced speed. You broke another rib, the doctor said flatly. And stressed nearly every muscle again. Brock managed a weak smile. Sorry. You are impossible, the doctor replied. Fleek finally exhaled. Across the spire, Lord Kix sat restrained inside a reinforced chamber. Heavy fields pinned his armor. His weapon was gone. But his expression was not defeat. It was curiosity. A diplomatic delegation arrived within the hour. Broadcast drones followed. The galaxy was watching. Dean Oat stood before Kix. You failed, the Dean said. Kix tilted his head. No. I learned. He looked directly at the camera drone. Humans are not soft, Kix said. They do not obey fear. They do not collapse when logic says they should. He laughed quietly. That makes them dangerous. The broadcast was cut immediately. Too late. Brock woke again, hours later. This time, the room was brighter. More people. Too many people. Fleek stood near the wall. D-Note was there, Dr. Hoot, and 3 alien diplomats Brock had never seen before. One of them stepped forward. Human Brock Hansen, the alien said. Your actions prevented mass loss of life. Brock blinked. Okay. You also interfered with an active galactic conflict, the diplomat continued. Brock frowned. I was defending my school. That is not how the galaxy sees it, the alien replied. D-Note placed a hand behind his back. They see precedent. The diplomat nodded. Human resilience. Human defiance. Human refusal to surrender. Brock shifted painfully. You make it sound bad. It is unsettling, the alien admitted. They activated a display. Across the galaxy, reactions played. Alien military analysts replaying Brock standing after being hit. Politicians arguing. Strategists rewriting threat models. One phrase appeared again and again. Human variable detected, Fleek swallowed. They're afraid, Fleek said. Yes, the diplomat replied. An afraid species act. Brock stared at the ceiling. So what now? He asked. The diplomat hesitated. The Assembly is reconsidering human classification. D-Note looked at Brock. This will not end with Sunspire. Brock closed his eyes. Figures. Later that night, Fleek sat with Brock on the balcony outside the medical wing. The spire lights shimmered far below. You didn't have to do that, Fleek said softly. Brock shrugged carefully. Someone had to. You changed how they see humans. Brock looked at his hands. I didn't mean to. Fleek shook his head. That's why it matters. Above them, ships moved into new positions. Patrol patterns changed. Defensive lines shifted. Far away, councils debated. Armies prepared. Humans were no longer background noise. They were a factor. A risk. A question no one had an answer for. Back in his room, Brock rested, staring into the dark. For the first time, he understood something clearly. The galaxy did not fear human weapons. It feared human choices. And tomorrow, they would respond. The galaxy did not sleep. News spread faster than ships could travel. Footage from Sunspire flooded every network. A human student. A shattered spire. An alien warlord stopped by one injured Deathworlder who refused to kneel. Brock Hansen became a name spoken in whispers and in fear. Brock woke slowly. This time, the pain was deeper, heavy. Settled into his bones like gravity itself. His chest was wrapped tight. His arm rested in a medical brace. Every breath burned. But he was alive. Again, sunlight filtered through the wide hospital window. Far below, the city spire stretched across the planet like a living thing, repaired but forever changed. Fleek sat beside the bed, eyes fixed on a datapad. He looked up the moment Brock stirred. You are awake? Fleek said quickly. Brock smiled faintly. Still breathing. That's new. Fleek's tail flicked once, relief clear. You are unconscious for 2 days. Only 2, Brock whispered. I'm improving. The door slid open. D-Note entered, followed by Dr. Soffenhut, and 3 unfamiliar figures wearing dark diplomatic robes. Their presence felt heavy. Important. Mr. Hansen, the Dean said, the Galactic Assembly has issued a formal inquiry. Brock groaned softly. Please tell me this doesn't mean more interviews. Dr. Hutt gave him a look. Do not joke. You fractured a rib again. The diplomats stepped forward. One of them spoke. Human Brock Hansen, the alien said, voice smooth but careful. You prevented a mass casualty event. You defied a warlord without military backing. You'd inspired armed forces to stand down. Brock blinked. I just didn't want anyone else getting hurt. The diplomat paused. That, he said, is precisely the problem. The room grew still. Empires, the diplomat continued, are built on predictable fear. You did something unpredictable. Flick stiffened. Denote folded his hands behind his back. The assembly wishes to understand humanity. Brock sighed. Good luck with that. The diplomat studied him closely. Lord Kix has surrendered completely, he said. Not because he was defeated, but because he was outmatched morally. That made Brock turn his head. He said, the diplomat continued. Humans do not break the way others do. They bend the battlefield itself. Silence followed. The diplomat straightened. Because of this incident, the assembly has reached a decision. Fleek leaned forward. So have we, Brock said quietly. The diplomat nodded. Humanity will no longer be classified as an emerging novelty species. Brock frowned. That sounds bureaucratic. It is, the alien admitted. You are now recognized as a strategic species. That landed hard. Denote smiled faintly. You forced the galaxy to take humans seriously, he said. Brock looked away toward the window. I didn't mean to, he said. I just wanted my friends safe. Fleek smiled. That is worse, the diplomat said softly. Days passed. Brock healed slowly. Students stopped cheering when he walked by. They watched instead. Alien athletes studied him with new caution. Professors changed how they spoke to him. Guards adjusted their posture. Even silence felt different. One evening, Brock sat with Fleek on the high ledge of the spire, wind brushing against the shield barrier. You okay? Fleek asked. Brock nodded. Yeah. Just thinking. About what? Brock stared at the stars. Back on Earth, he said, humans fight over stupid stuff. Power, ego, pride. He exhaled slowly. Out here, we scare people just by standing up. Fleek's ears tilted. Does that trouble you? Brock thought about it. Then shook his head. No, he said. It means we have responsibility now. Flick nodded once. You carry it well. Brock laughed quietly. You should have seen me before this place. They sat in silence. Far across the galaxy, a sealed chamber opened. An ancient council reviewed footage of Sunspire on massive holograms. A human carrying alien leaders through fire. A human refusing surrender. A human choosing others over survival. One voice echoed in the chamber. Death welders were supposed to be weapons, it said. Another answered. They are something worse. A pause. They choose. Back at Sunspire, Brock lay in bed one final night before release. Dr. Hutt finished his scan. You are medically cleared, he said. Against logic. Brock grinned. Story of my life. Fleek stood. Ready to return to class? He asked. Brock sat up carefully. Yeah, he said. But this time, I'm not just playing a game. Outside, the spire lights shimmered against the stars. The galaxy watched. And somewhere deep in the void, plans were already changing. Because when humans joined the story, nothing stayed the same.